We're going to do a stout. It's a blackberry oatmeal stout, and we did it. It's a Kentucky Proud beer. That's one of the ways that we can work with, getting tourists in. We will use a grain from a Kentucky farmer, and this instance we used a fruit from a Kentucky farmer in one of our beers. And last week we actually had a Kentucky Proud beer festival out here, and there's 25 brewers, and each one of them had to have at least one beer that had a Kentucky grown product in it. So it's a very nice event. So what do you guys think of the beer? Good to hear. So the nice thing about beer, right, and there's always someone who says, oh, I'm not really a fan of beer. What do you think of this?
Very easy. Oh, what do I think of this? Sorry, I thought you were. I like it. I like the blackberry undertones. I love blackberries.
And that's one of the things about beer. Sometimes people say, oh, I don't like beer, but they've only had the normal American pilsners and things like that. There's a lot of flavors in beer. So this is an oatmeal stout to start with, a 6% alcohol beer, and then we added blackberries, that we got from a Kentucky farmer. So there's a lot going on. You get some of the kind of the dryness of the oats, kind of the roasted grain of the stout, and then a lot of the blackberry flavor on the end. And when I'm pouring it, especially over in the sun, it really has kind of almost a deep purple color to it. It's kind of hard to see once it's in the glass, but as I'm pouring it, I can see the color. Yeah. So these are the 4 beers that we're going to taste.
So our connection to Buffalo Trace, and it's no real secret, my grandfather took over Buffalo Trace from Albert Blanton, if you know who Albert Blanton is. August did the 2nd and 3rd millionth barrels from Buffalo Trace. We can see pictures of all that. But because of that familial and location-wise relationship, we're on good terms. And so we're able to get barrels that a lot of breweries cannot. And this is bragging because we can. If it's true, it's not really bragging. But we are able, because of that, able to match the beer to the barrel. And why that's important is that barrel gives as much flavor to that barrel-aged beer as the beer does itself. And if you just throw it randomly into a barrel and just age the hell out of it, either you're gonna get something that's just very mundane and blah or tastes like bourbon, or it may or may not be good. And so Dylan's done a great job of matching each of the beers that are in the barrel. So we'll walk around the room with these. The top 2, as I said, those were our Santa Claus. That's our Weller barrels. Those are the ones that came out last year. Those also were the first beers brewed commercially in Frankfurt in 127 years, since we closed the last time. We've been drinking on them now. They're now filled with, we usually use barrels one time and we're done. This particular case, those came out so good, we refilled them with the Vienna Lager, and it's gonna be phenomenal. We don't know when we're releasing it yet, though. The ones underneath it, though, are our 7-year mead. They almost have a year under their belts. And yes, 7 years. We'll release that in 2026. We talked about the E.H. Taylor Kentucky Common. Does anybody know what a Kentucky Common is? Everything you need to know about Kentucky Common's in the name. It's a Kentucky beer. It's the only indigenous, for lack of a better term, Kentucky beer. Common ingredients for the common man. It means it's a cheaper beer to make. This man brought it back from extinction when he was with Fall City. It's a beer made from the mash bill of bourbon.
Bourbon is mostly a corn mash, and then you have some barley and either rye or wheat. So what we do is we flip it on its head. This is going to be mostly barley because we're making beer after all. It's going to have some corn and then either rye or wheat. So what we did was we tried to come up with our best guess of what E.H. Taylor mash bill is. And like I said, invert the corn with the barley. And then we ferment it. Ours is a mixed fermentation. Usually what they would do is they would ferment it at high temperatures and get it out as quickly as possible, because people, with a little bit more money could afford to drink a beer that has sat around for a month or 2. But, a Kentucky Common could come out in a week, maybe 2 weeks, and not take as much tank space, use cheaper ingredients, and it just got out there quicker, so it was cheaper, so how many people could afford it. So what ends up happening is you get like a taste of that bourbon mixture of grains. You get a little bit of sweetness from the corn and a little bit of spiciness from the rye, or that smoothness from the wheat. This is a rye-based Kentucky Common.
With ours, you're going to get, if anybody has had a farmhouse ale, get a lot of kind of a little bit of funk, some bready notes to it. That's a lot of the Kentucky Common that we're producing. The barrels next to that would be our Blanton 66 or our Bourbon 66. It's the second beer that you tried, the wheated lager, aged in a Blanton's barrel for 6 months. And that's probably our most bourbon-ish beer we make. It brings up a lot of flavors of bourbon, a lot of the chocolates, a lot of the sweetness, and we intentionally do that. What we do try to do by having these multiple barrels and having them matched up is there's no set time period of leaving beer in the barrel. We pull it when it's good. We don't want to take it too far to where all you're tasting is bourbon. We still want you to taste beer. But on the other hand, it allows us to kind of that flexibility. The last two sets we have kind of in the corner, honestly, those are two of our favorites as well. Those are George T. Stagg barrels, the top ones. Yep. Very few breweries can get them because Sazerac uses them in their cognac business. We put our Prohibition Porter in there. It comes out tasting like Derby pie. And it ages very, very fast because those are, depending on those barrels, are 15 to 23 years old. So there's a lot of bourbon left in that wood.
One of the things Frankfurt's doing, and it sort of is piggybacking on something Buffalo Trace was doing, is a local canoe company, Canoe Kentucky, does a tour with Buffalo Trace where they'll start at Riverview Park, which is right down the road, and like canoe down to Buffalo Trace, do a tour, have a tasting, canoe back. And they brought in a lot of tourists that way. Well, now they're wanting to work with us, Luscher, Bourbon on Main, a bunch of the cafe down here this summer, and get that going to see if it works for all of these, like Frankfurt as a whole, basically, And there'll be a canoe trip, then they walk around downtown Frankfurt. A different business will be featured every week, and then canoe back. And so that's a cool thing too, because Canoe Kentucky's been around for as long as I can remember, mostly focused on the Elkhorn, but now they're, looking at the river as like, a point of economic development that's kind of been unused. And I think a lot of downtown Frankfurt is doing that. So